Hi there, this is the maiden episode of Second Serve by me, Vivek Krishnan. As the name suggests, I'll be talking about tennis here. So what do we have? The Laver Cup just got concluded a few days ago, and it was, one must admit, it was a great event, great entertainment for the fans. Everybody loved it. The pros, Roger, Rafa, Bjorn was loving every moment. John showed his passion. And of course, Rod Laver was into the action as well. Once again, Team Europe got the better of Team World. 3-0 is the score now. Let's not forget the Laver Cup started in 2017. So 17, 18, 19, 3 wins on the bounce for Team Europe. I must say, I felt Team World would eventually get one back, but it was a Herculean effort from Alexander Zverev, who once again won it at the last moment, like we saw in Chicago last year for Team Europe. So yes, while like I said, while it provides great entertainment for the fans and for the caretakers, for the investors, for everybody, I wonder, does the Laver Cup mean anything at all? Because, I mean, look, what has the concept and the whole tournament done to the sport in itself? So, one gets a feeling, yes, the product is new and it might continue to stay here for nobody knows how long. But there are a lot of doubts. Yes, the pros might say it's a serious tournament. Nobody's, of course, accusing them of tanking matches, unless, of course, you're talking about a Nick Kyrgios. You never know what he's up to. But you look at everybody out there, Roger, Rafa, Dominic Thiem, John Isner, Jack Sock, all these guys were giving their very best. They were so passionate. Somebody like Jack Sock, who has not been playing singles for almost a year, comes out of nowhere, gets the win for Team World, and that is the atmosphere that this team sport can give you. We all know tennis is not a team sport, but there again, you just wonder where is this whole concept heading. What is the incentive? Look, at the end of the day, the money, that is the biggest incentive one can look for in a event like this, because you have the best sponsors, you have the greatest players playing, and again, the fans love to see drama on court, and when they have somebody like Roger and Rafa, Novak was there last year, Dominic Thiem, the next gen, playing together, playing for each other. So that's a great thing. But I have a couple of problems here with the whole concept, and I'll get into the details. First things first. Look, Team Europe versus Team World. How can this be a level playing field? There is no match for Team Europe. When you have Roger, Rafa, Novak on one side, I'm not even talking about the next gen. I'm not even talking about the other veteran players from Spain, from Italy, from Switzerland. You don't have to talk about these guys. But when you have the top 3, perhaps the greatest ever players to play the game, there is no match for Europe. Unlike, of course, in the 90s, when you had somebody like Sampras, you had Agassi from the United States, you had Pat Rafter from Australia, Leighton Hewitt was there for a while. So that's when the Team World had some great players. But it's all about the cream of ATP Tour, I must say, comes from Europe. So there is actually no competition. That doesn't make sense to me. And here's one interesting stat I was looking into, and I just discovered that if you look at the current ATP rankings, in the top 17, there is only one guy outside of Europe, and that guy happens to be Kei Nishikori. There is no Del Potro, there is no John Isner, There is no Ivo Karlovic. There is no Nick Kyrgios. No, these guys are not in the top 10. So not even in the top 17. So that clearly tells you it is the players from Europe who dominate the ATP Tour and the ATP rankings. So as you can clearly see, there is a big gulf in two teams. Like I said, the incentive, there is no ranking, no ATP points, head-to-head battle. No, unlike a Davis Cup competition where you can brag about your head-to-head, other competitions where you have ATP rankings, where you have points. The only incentive here for the players is money. When you talk about Roger and Rafa, we can say maybe they are playing for the great Rod Laver. Remember, this was Roger Federer's concept. He created this format, this tournament, along with his agent Tony Gottsick a few years ago, and they wanted to do something for the sport. They wanted to give something back to the sport. They wanted to do something for Rod Laver. Even when Roger was coming up the ranks, winning a slam or two, he mentioned it was very apparent, it was very visible, especially down under, when he used to literally sob after winning a trophy in front of Rod Laver. So we know the amount of respect he has for the great man. You can say Roger is so passionate. Money, of course, it matters. And probably they wanted to do something for the sport. And likewise Rafa, likewise Novak. All these guys respect former players. Be it Roy Emerson, be it Rod Laver, be it Tony Roach, all these guys. So yeah, but overall I feel it is the money that calls the shot. If you look at the obligation part. Now, why did Rafa play the Laver Cup? Like Novak, he could have easily said, you know what, I don't want to play this season because I've had a grueling time in North America. I have won the US Open. I'm tired. I had almost nothing left in the finals against Medvedev. So I need to take a good rest, considering that he's going to get married soon. He intends to skip the Asian swing and then play the final two important tournaments in Bercy and the World Tour finals. So again, it's a bit of a surprise, and eventually we saw what happened to Rafa. He had a taping in his wrist. He had to take an injection or two. He played a match against Raonic. It was very scratchy and rusty, understandably so. He's not been practicing. So one wonders why. Yes, he's a team person. He's a great motivator. He likes to play for his people. That's where he gets his energy from. We have seen him play in the Davis Cup. I have seen Rafa play live in the Davis Cup for Spain. We all know what a passionate guy he is. So yes, maybe he wanted to be part of the team, but then I'm not very sure if he should have played that match against Raonic. Now, I really hope it isn't a serious injury, because if it is, it will be a tragedy. Because if you look at the next 2-3 months, he has a great chance of eclipsing Novak Djokovic as the #1 player in the world. He has a great shot at winning the World Tour finals, which he has never won. That is probably one trophy that has eluded him. So yeah, not very sure about the move. We'll have to wait and see. We have to wait for more reports to come. Only then we'll know if Rafa is going to finish the season well or not. But yeah, I just feel he could have opted out. Probably he was under pressure, more of an obligation. He's a great friend of Roger Federer, and we know what these two great champions are capable of. We know the camaraderie they share off the court. They're great rivals, and probably Rafa came under some obligation because he didn't want to disappoint Roger. He didn't want to disappoint his fans. He didn't want to disappoint people in Geneva who were long waiting to see Roger and Rafa in action. So who knows, that could be the case. We have read a lot of reports. We saw the atmosphere in Geneva. It was packed. Everybody was loving it. It was a shortened format. People like that. Sometimes I wonder if tennis is heading in that direction, because there is pressure from the broadcasters. There is pressure from the sponsors. You never know with tennis how long you need to keep the slot open. It could be 2 hours, it could be 3, 4, it could go on and on. But in a format like the Laver Cup or even the ATP Cup, which will start early next year, at least you have a guaranteed time frame wherein you can fix the slot and run your show. But again, that's for another day, that debate. We saw the former players supporting the concept, loving every moment of it. And what stood out was, of course, we'll come to Roger and Rafa in a bit. What stood out was great camaraderie, great support, great friendship, trust. We saw on and off court coaching. We saw Bjorn and John getting involved. Everybody was desperate to win. I must add, it was played in a great spirit. There was no sledging, there were no unpleasant incidents, no violations as such. You never know. I mean, in a tournament like this with characters like Nick Kyrgios around, you just don't know what to expect. And of course, Fabio Fognini, it was interesting to see how he was being cooled down by Roger and Rafa on the sideline. So when you have temperamental characters like Kyrgios and Fognini, it makes life all the more difficult for people like Roger and Rafa, and that's where their characters stood out, and the way they went about their coaching, both where Roger and Rafa were going gaga about their coaching skills. And it was interesting to see how the two accompanied Tsitsipas all the way to the bathroom, outside of it, telling him what to do, what not to do. Likewise with Zverev. It's great for these guys, who are learning the tricks of the trade, who are watching the two legends go about their business. It was very unfortunate that Novak wasn't around, but I really hope he gets back next year. And of course, the bromance between Roger and Rafa continued. Roger falling on Rafa's lap and Rafa crying on Roger's shoulder. I mean, yeah, you just feel, okay, in a realistic world, this is not possible, because tennis was always meant to be an individual sport. You have to be selfish to be the very best. But the nature of the format, the desperation to win it for Team Europe, the desperation to win it for Rod Laver, or rather in front of him, to prove your character, to prove your mettle, I think all this mattered a lot to Roger and Rafa. And of course, it's great for the television, it's great for the sponsors, it's great for the cameramen, it's nice to the eyes. I mean, the only reason Davis Cup doesn't get much attention, of course, we know the Davis Cup is under construction. We'll probably have a refurbished format in the time to come. But I think the only issue with Davis Cup is because, yes, you're playing for your country, you're playing with your own people. Having said that, best players don't play for each other. So you will never see Roger, Novak, Rafa playing for each other in a Davis Cup. Unlike, of course, the Laver Cup. That's perhaps what makes the Laver Cup a little different. New followers, yes, new followers will be into the sport. But there again, it's a 3-day event. It's more of an exhibition. People will forget about it a week maximum, and then they'll be moving on to the more meaningful tournaments in the ATP calendar. But look, it's nice for the camera. It's good for sponsors. Having said that, how much is it helping the youngsters? Is it really adding value to the sport? You don't know. And now with the advent of the ATP Cup and the new Davis Cup format, we'll have 3 team events. I never thought tennis would reach a stage where we'll have an individual sport slowly but surely being converted into a team sport. Yes, I understand it is going to be rather sporadic, but look, it's here. And John McEnroe openly talked about how he would want to see more team events because he was a great Davis Cup fan. He played for the United States. Likewise, Roger also has made his intentions very clear. We'll have to see how this takes off. But what we do know is the 4th edition is going to be played in Boston next year, and it will be scheduled somewhere in the month of September. I think 25, 26, 27 are the tentative dates. It's going to be there, and we'll see what the ATP and of course the Davis Cup has to offer in 2020. That's it for this episode. I'll be doing tennis episodes weekly, and I'll be talking about various happenings in the world of tennis. You can catch me on Twitter. It's VamosVK, and yes, you can listen to this on thefangarage.com. You can, of course, follow me on Facebook as well. Cheers, guys. Thanks so much. Feedback, suggestions, critics, whatever it is, always welcome. Thanks much again. Bye.